I don't think there's anything easier than living in your own fantasy. Hi, I'm Jed, and this is the Reality Check, a show that's about not falling into the vices of men. And today we're going to talk about fantasy worlds that you create on your own. And, I don't know how I fucking tried not to get into them. It's really easy to start thinking about shit. I feel like we're designed to do that, and we've been doing it our entire lives. And when I mean shit, I just mean like hypothetical scenarios. And I've talked about hypotheticals in the past on this channel, but I really want to deep dive into the consequences of thinking like that. Thinking in 0.0001% chance. What would I do in that scenario? Because it's not really the fact that you do it. I can compare that to learning chess. I think it's very important to go into those ultra specific scenarios, just to learn how to deal with them. It's about the ones that we choose to think about, because we're not going to think about, first of all, stuff that never happened to us. Everything that we will think about, it's going to be from another memory or another thing that and it's really easy to forget that and just assume that what you think about is the end all be all, and that nothing else can happen, because there's a lot of things that can happen that just didn't happen to you yet. Words that you don't know, people you don't know. Because another thing that's kind of a problem, I guess, when doing these sorts of scenarios is the fact that most of the times you put yourself into very favorable scenarios. You think about what I would do if I was in a zombie apocalypse, and you don't think like I would just die. You're like, hey, I'll be fine. I could find maybe a crossbow and like shoot some zombies. I guess that's a bad example because it's way too fictitious. If I wanted to pull from my fantasy world, I guess, it's just talking to random YouTubers. What would I do if I met J Slat, for example? How could I seem cool but not clingy so that he wants to talk to me again? But I don't know Schlatt. The only thing I know about Schlatt is the image that he put forward into his videos, right? As a person, I've never met him. I've never talked to him in real life. So how could I possibly know what he would answer in the scenarios that I put myself in? I don't. And it's really easy to assume that you do because, like I said, your brain is not going to think about the stuff that it's not going to think about. That's kind of how fucking knowledge works, unfortunately. And you can't simulate everything, even though your computer brain is pretty good. It's not perfect. And when you do that, it feels like at some point you lose touch with reality. This channel's name kind of is partly a reference to that, the Reality Check. It's important to have one of those once in a while. Just something big that happens to you that makes you really question what you're doing, what you're up to. Because for me, those moments are very important, since I'm very easily pulled back into thinking about random fucking scenarios that are never going to happen. And when you're stuck into that kind of fantasy world that you build yourself, it's just the easy way out, right? It's not actually doing anything concrete. It's looking at the future and trying to understand what's going to be in the future, what's going to happen to the future. And it's stuff that's never going to happen if you don't do them. It's kind of like paradoxical in a way. You think about all the scenarios that are never going to happen if you don't stop thinking about them. And I feel like that's a fallacy that a lot of people kind of fall into, especially people with a decent imagination, because you require that to be able to get into fucking hour-long scenarios. Maybe I'm the only one who does that, but I don't think that's true. I feel like it makes sense in an evolution standpoint to think about the stuff that you know and try to extrapolate into the stuff that could happen. I feel like that's pretty important when you're a goon in the jungle and you're trying to impress your tribe mates. But in the digital age, it's never gonna work like that. You can know someone that's very, very far away. You can talk to people on the other side of the world without any noticeable, issues. And, you need to be aware of that and be careful. Really be careful about not falling into your own, little bubble and never wanting to leave it. Because when you stop thinking about those scenarios and you go into real life, it's not the same. You need to give up on short-term pleasure for long-term glory. And yeah, that's about it. Good night.